for that. Yeah, so for most Indian colleges, you have to give the entrance exam. So uh, the general thing is that it's first of all a maths exam, an English exam. They try and test your general knowledge. The only requirement for economics is maths. You don't actually need economics for that. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the NYS is like having joined there. So the first thing is if you didn't have economics in school, they make a provision for that. They teach you from the very basics. They don't make you learn things that they don't make you learn halfway through if you haven't already done it in school. So those are the important points to know. If you're applying to a college like Ashoka or Kriya, they have a slight, as I mentioned, a different process. Kriya, which is one university I applied to, they have quite a unique process where they make you attend a group session, and they want to see how you work in a group. And that's how they kind of judge you and assess you. Symbiosis makes you give a test, but they also have you write an essay and a picture essay. So that's also how they analyze critical thinking skills. And then for Ashoka, they have a test and an interview. All of these colleges have an interview, which is very important. I'm sure if you're using ProPed, they prepare you very well for the interview. I did a lot of practice sessions with Namrata. I'm not sure if she's on the call, but I did a lot of practice sessions with her to prepare for the interview. So in that sense, it's not very difficult. You just need to make sure you're up to date with current events. You're aware of your field, and you've prepared your resume in a way that you're actually aware of everything that you're saying that you've done. If you've put something on your resume and it's not something you've actually done, or you're kind of exaggerating, a lot of the time people do get in trouble for that. They do get caught during the interview because it does kind of come to light that you haven't actually done what you're claiming to do. As for things that are good on your resume, I'm assuming people have done a lot of extracurriculars, sports, things like that, because they do help a lot, especially in a college like Ashoka or Kriya, which are very kind of run and looking for those for an all-round student rather than just someone that's done very well academically. That does give you a certain edge. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, that was really insightful. So my first question to you is, why did you choose Nmims? Because as you said that you had applied to many other colleges also. So how did you decided that Nmims is the place that you want to, study?
So the reason I chose Nmis, first of all, it has a very good reputation. I'd spoken to my parents, the friends of my parents who are working in a lot of companies in India, and they all told me that they hired a lot of people from there, and it had a very good reputation, even with people that I knew. Also, I like the fact that it's situated in Bombay. So that gives you a unique opportunity, because if you're applying to Ashoka, one thing that you have to be aware of is that the majority of your student life will be on campus, because the area around it, there's not a lot to do. You're going to be spending most of your time on campus. But in NMIMS, it's kind of marketed that way, is that the city is your campus. You're kind of free to do whatever you want, which is something that I really liked. And that's something I was looking forward to. Also, I liked the economics program. I thought it was very good. I thought it was more towards what I was looking for, but that's more of a personal decision. And I think as I'm probably looking to at least work for a few years after college before my postgraduate, it's made more sense to do an Indian college that has a good reputation in India. So those are the reasons I chose it. And it's got a very good reputation for economics, which is what I have chosen this field. So that's the reason I chose it.
Okay. So, Tuhin, while filling out the applications, what other options were you considering, and how did you finally decided economics?
I was also considering liberal arts. That was something I applied to for at Ashoka and a few other colleges. But first of all, I had always had my heart kind of set on economics. I think at NMIMS specifically, the economics program is a lot stronger than their liberal arts program. But I would also say that in general, I just had a lot more passion for economics than I did for liberal arts as a whole. So that's really what formed my decision. And so far, they've done a pretty good job.
Okay. So, what are your plans after undergrad?
So as it stands, first I have to obviously, I think I want to work for at least a year or two before, after I've graduated, and then I'll look at a postgraduate university. But that's the first thing that I want to work for a while. Once I've actually gone to college and I can understand exactly what field I want to get some experience in, and then after I've done that, I'll look to go for a postgraduate program, which is what most students in NMIMS do. They work during college and after college, and then they move on to postgraduate.
Okay. So how do you think a degree in economics will provide you, a perfect foundation for a successful career?
First of all, economics is a subject that I'm very interested in. If anyone on this call is interested in that, I'm sure you will agree that it has a lot of opportunities. It's very widespread. You can go into so many different fields. Like, I've spoken to professors, and the number of fields that they've had students go into is really why they've gone to a lot of different companies. A lot of them have done social work from economics. So you can kind of do a lot of different things at a lot of different companies, and there's also a lot of demand for economics students at the moment, so it's a good field to be in.
Okay. So talking about the jobs and internships, so uh, do you get help from your university? Like, does NMIMS help the students with internships and securing jobs?
Yeah, they do that. So NMIMS policy is that during summer break, so you'll have your first year, and during the summer break between first year and second year, it's mandatory for students to apply for an internship. And the university does help with placements for internships. Obviously, this summer with the lockdowns in most places, it's very difficult for people to find internships and quality internships online. So they're allowing people to take a course instead. But if in general they help you and they do make you do an internship in the summer, they also make you do an internship in the summer between second and third year. Also, the professors who have obviously been in the field for a very long time, they do help you where they can in finding jobs after college. So that's a helpful foundation to be in, because they obviously have students that can also help provide you with opportunities.
So how are the faculties at NMIMS?
So far, my experience has been fairly positive. I haven't been able to go, unfortunately, and really get a feel for it. But so far, they've been very helpful. I can tell that they're trying to make the most of a pretty bad situation, and they're very knowledgeable in their field. So I think those are really helpful things, and I think they are doing their best to prepare you for what life actually is like after college. So far, I would say it's been positive, but obviously, there's a lot more to find out once I go there.
True. So, Tuhin, are you aware what kind of extracurricular activities, clubs, and societies are there at the campus?
Yes. So there's a lot of different extracurriculars that students can do. They encourage you to do a lot of them. So they have a dance club, they have a drama club, they have a music club. So if you're interested in any of those three, you can participate. They have a lot of different sports teams, football, cricket, a lot of popular sports. So these are things that you can pursue through the university. They also are very well known for hosting festivals, and the students organize the festival, so that gives you a good chance to interact with a lot of your seniors and a lot of people from nearby colleges, and you get the experience of actually organizing the fest, and it's something you can put on your resume.
Okay. So, Tuhin, we have a question from our audience. So, they would like to know that the BSc Economics, which is offered at NMIMS, is it more application based or more theoretical? As the economics that is being taught in grade 11 and 12, it's more based on theory. So, how is
So
it?
I would say it's a bit of a balance. First of all, like I said earlier, if you haven't done economics in 11th and 12th, which a lot of students didn't actually do because a lot of students pursued science in 11th and 12th and then chose to do eco, they don't require economics, they only require maths. So if you haven't done economics in 11th and 12th and you're worried that that might put you at a disadvantage, it won't. They first of all put science children in one division, and they make everyone start from the same place and learn the same basics. So even if you didn't learn those things in 11th and 12th, you can still learn. You will still be taught them in college in your first semester. So there's no need to worry about that if you're a science student and you're worried about entering an economics course. So they do make you apply yourself, obviously, but there is also a good amount of theory. If you have a weak base or if you have no base at all, you can learn that as well.
So we have another question about the amenities and facilities that are offered at the campus. Can you
So
please
I
elaborate?
obviously haven't been, but I have friends that have been because they went to attend a festival because they were organizing it. So they've conveyed to me that it's a very nice campus. There's a very good canteen there. Generally there's a library, there's a gym, there's a lot of different facilities available. So, and obviously the biggest kind of benefit that you have is that you're based in Mumbai, which is a very great city to be in. There's almost everything available to you there. So the campus itself, I've been told, is very, very nice. There's a hostel there. I don't know what that's like, but the overall campus is said to be really nice. And the biggest benefit is that you're actually in Bombay.
Okay. Okay. So, my next question is that this whole year you have been studying online, right? So, what all challenges did you face, and what do you think are the biggest disadvantages of this online system of education?
There's a lot of challenges with it. It's a very, first of all, the college itself has never done this before. So, with unfamiliarity with college, with this new system, they do struggle sometimes. I do think they're doing their best, and I do see them actually putting in effort to make it easy for us as students. But they do sometimes have issues. I think now that it's been a year, they will be more prepared for the coming semester. So that's one benefit, but it's difficult to really get to know your classmates. It's difficult to form a strong bond with your professors because it's not very normal to be looking at someone through a webcam. So that is difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to kind of pay attention and be motivated. But if you're really dedicated and you're willing to put in the effort, you can make the most of of a pretty poor situation. And I would say that maybe not. I wouldn't say. I would be surprised if you were able to go in your first semester. But from what I'm hearing, there is a fairly positive chance of you going in the second semester. So once you get there, I've been told it's a much better experience. So if it can be worth just waiting for that one semester and kind of getting through it, because they do try and make it as easy on you as possible, but there are going to be certain things that make it the best, and it's nowhere near what the actual experience is.
Okay. So we have another question from our audience, and the student would like to know, any tips for preparing for the SAT.
So first of all, they have an essay which is considered very important by them. I would practice using prompts that maybe the pro team can give you, or you can find online. There's a lot of different prompts that you can use to practice, and they can grade you on it. That's a big thing. That's a big component for them. The actual test itself, I gave it. I found it very easy. They test you on your basic knowledge, so your general knowledge, your maths, your English, those basic skills. So there's a lot of different exercise books and workbooks that you can use to practice. So once you've practiced them, and you'll be more than fine. I'd be very surprised if you struggle with them, because a lot of them you actually learned about in school. So, or if you can go through a coaching center, they'll do a perfect job of preparing you.
So how much time do you think a student would usually require?
I didn't because I was only giving the SCT. I only spent an hour, maybe an hour and a half a day with the essay. Like I maybe do an essay, or I do a few exercises in maths to prepare. But for my friends who were at an actual coaching center, were preparing for a lot of different entrance exams. I don't think anyone really crossed that threshold of 3 to 4 hours a day, and they were still able to get into the college.
So we have another about the difficulty level of mathematics. So
I would. I do have a friend who's giving that. I have a few friends giving that course. I don't think they find the mathematics very hard because they took it in 11th and 12th. As for economics, again, which I would assume is probably more difficult for mathematics than BBA, I didn't find it very challenging. I'd done a lot of what was being taught in school itself. So even if you weren't very good at maths in school, you're doing a lot of stuff that's already been done. So you have a strong base going into it, and they do a very good job of teaching you. So I wouldn't be too worried about maths. Most students do quite well in maths, even if they struggled in school.
okay. So Tuhin, apart from mathematics and economics, what all other subjects do they offer?
So they offer a lot of subjects. Actually, that's one thing that's very unique about NMIMS. They don't focus on just the one subject. So in each semester, you will have 8 subjects. You have 4 core subjects, which are for 4 credits, and they have a lot more content. They're a lot more difficult. So that's maths, microeconomics, macroeconomics, and then the fourth one changes from semester to semester. And then they'll have 4 subjects that change each semester. So the first semester we had sociology, we had logic, and then the next semester they did political science, they did law. So they change it up, and they try and make it interesting and make you learn every different skill that you can that's related to economics, so that you're very well prepared the for the future, basically.
Okay. So we have another question, and the student would like to know what, according to you, is a better course, BSc Economics or BSc Economics Honors?
I think they're both very good courses, but I would say BSc Economics is probably better.
Okay. And there is another question that when applying through SAT score, is the admission process completely merit based or there is an interview as well?
It is merits based, but there is an interview. They do, each college does interview you because they want to get to know you as a student, and they also do look at your they do look at your marks from school, and they do look at your extracurriculars. So those things do matter, but your SAT will be the main point, obviously.
Okay. And there is another question about your SAT score and what do you think is the minimum score that would be required at NMIMS?
I had a 1450, and I would assume based on people who have also applied that you should aim for at least 1400 and above. And if you
1400.
haven't achieved that, then I would look at maybe giving the entrance exam, because that's also a good way of getting in. Most students get in through the entrance exam.
Okay. Okay. So, Tuhin, talking about the extracurricular activities. So, what activities do you think should the student focus on, during grade 11 and 12 to strengthen their applications?
I would say do what you're passionate about, because when they interview you, if they can tell, if when you're talking about it, they can tell that what you did just so that you can put it on your resume, it feels very disingenuous and they won't be very impressed. If there's something that you genuinely enjoy and you're good at, you can do really interesting things with it. And if you can communicate it and why that was such a big part of who you are and why that's an impressive achievement, they will respond to that, even if it's not very generic. But if you're doing something like a sport, if you're doing an activity, I would say actually put in as much effort as you can, achieve whatever you can, and they do appreciate it regardless of what it is. There's a lot of common things in you can do charity work if you enjoy that, a sport, an activity. There's a whole host of options, and they appreciate most of them as long as you genuinely put time and effort into it.
Okay. So, how did you prepare for the admission process for the NMIMS? Are there any particular things that you focused on?
So, like I said, I luckily I didn't have to give the exam, so I didn't work. I didn't have to prepare for that. But I did prepare a lot for the interview, which I did with one of the members of the provide team, Namrata. I prepared with Ayushi ma'am also for the picture essay and for the other essays. So all of that was very helpful. I think it improved my application. I worked a lot on my resume again. That was help. I was helped in that process. So I having a good essay is a very big help, because they do really value that. So just focus on your essay, focus on making sure your resume represents you, make sure you're prepared for the interview, you're actually ready on time, you know what points you want to communicate, how you want to present yourself, and give a good and prepare for the essay or entrance exam depending on what you're giving, and you'll give yourself the best chance of getting in.
Okay. So, what was the difficulty level of the interview?
I would say they were actually quite nice about it. They didn't try and grill you, but I would say also if they could sense that you were either unprepared for the interview or you were kind of lying a little bit, then they will start to question you a lot, because they don't want someone who's coming in and who's not being honest. But if they can tell what you're saying is honest, and they can tell it's coming from, like, you understand what you're talking about, they won't be too hard on you. They will like allow for some mistakes. But I would say also to focus on your general knowledge and to stay up to date with that, because they do like to ask questions about that, especially if you've said in your resume or your application that you are up to date on general knowledge. They will ask you, and even if you haven't, they do prefer a student who's very up to date. That's an advantage.
Okay. So, what type of questions did they ask you during the interview?
First, they ask you questions based on your essay. So whatever you've written on your essay, they will question you on it. So if you've said, I like to learn in a certain way, they'll say, how has that helped you? Why have you done this way? If you say you love economics because of something, they'll ask you about that. If you've written about an experience, they'll ask you to go more in depth about it. They'll ask you about the activities you've put on your resume. They'll ask you general knowledge questions. They'll ask you about the subjects that you've pursued in school, and they'll ask you why you actually want to go there. And you have to give them a proper answer why you actually are interested in going. So they just general questions that you will be prepared for if you've done with the prepare. I don't think there was one question that I hadn't prepared for with the team. So that was one benefit.
Okay. So talking about the subject specific questions, how difficult were they?
They were not very difficult. They do ask you questions, but if it's very clear you know what you're talking about, they're not going to grill you because they don't want to attack you. They want to make it easy for you. They want you to be comfortable. So as long as you know what you're talking about, it's not going to be too difficult.
Okay. So, Tuhin, we have a question about the hostel facilities and the food.
I've heard the food, first of all, is vegetarian if there's any non vegetarians out there. But I've heard that it's very good, even though it is vegetarian. There's a canteen there that has a lot of different food, not just Indian food, if that's not what you like. There's a lot of different options. The hostel I've heard is pretty good, but I don't know too much about that. However, it is very common for students to, number one, either get a PG or to get an apartment with other students that they've met at the college. That's a very common practice. They'll maybe make two, three, four friends and they'll stay in a small apartment. That's a very common practice of students at Nmims. And the only big advantage of the hostel is that it's very near the campus. So that helps you a lot, cuts down your travel time.
So, what would you prefer? Like, what type of accommodation do you prefer? Hostel or outside the campus?
Right now I'm looking at outside because I have a few friends that are from my own school that are also going. So being able to stay with them would make it very affordable to stay in an apartment, and I think that would give me a little bit more freedom. So I would be looking at an apartment, but a hostel is also a very good option, and a lot of seniors that I know have also chosen that option and then either stayed with it or gone on to an apartment later on if they didn't know people prior to it.
Okay. So, the next question from our audience is, which particular entrance exam is required for NMIMS?
The NPAT, that's the entrance, the NPAT.
Okay. And the other question is, this student is saying, so I had PCM as my subjects, but I still have a chance of doing BSc Economics from a university. How challenging would it be for me?
It will not be challenging for you because you're not going to be the only student. They will teach you. So what economic students like, I took eco in school. What I learned in 11th and 12th, you will be taught in your first semester. It may be a little bit difficult because it's online, so it's not very easy to understand. But they do understand that there's a lot of science students. My entire class, I would say about 80% of it was science students. So they all group you in one and they give you special attention. They make sure you're understanding, and that even though you don't have an economics background, you will be you will be able to learn everything just as well. So I wouldn't say you should look at that as a big problem. It's not going to be a big challenge. As long as you're willing to actually pay attention to your lectures and do the work, you'll be more than fine.
Okay. So Tuhin, suppose if there is a PCM student who is interested in, studying economics during undergrad, so do you have any tips for those students to prepare something beforehand, like before their course starts, any courses or something like that?
First of all, if there's certain courses online you can do like on Coursera and stuff, so those are an option. You could even ask your friends who did economics what they learned in school that they would say are the kind of basics that you should know beforehand. You can learn from just the own textbook that you had in school. If you don't do any of that even and you just try and keep yourself up to date on things related to economics, you will be easily able to learn it in college. It's not going to be a challenge. I personally know people that had never done a word of economics but were able to do it in college. The only thing I would say to make sure is that you know that economics is what you want to do. If you reach college and you find out, oh, I don't actually like it, then you will struggle. So just make sure this is the field you want to go to.
Okay. So there is another question we have. When does the entrance exam happen?
Typically around June, July. Last year it got postponed because of COVID, obviously, but it varies a little bit from each year. If you want to know, you can just check their website. It's written very prominently.
Okay. So there is another question. How is the competition in classes? Is it a supportive and positive learning environment for different kinds of students?
I wouldn't say it's very competitive. Obviously, there is a little competition between students. That's natural that students will want to compete with another. But I wouldn't say it's very competitive and people are out to get each other. First of all, one big thing that's a huge component of NMIMS is group work. So at the start of every semester, you will get put into an academic group with about five, six, seven other individuals from your classroom, and from your class, and you will have to do a presentation or a project of some kind in each and every subject as a group. So you have to work with other people. You can't be selfish. You can't just do it by yourself. You have to work with other people. That's something that you focus on a lot. You have to make sure that you're kind of being supportive. So I would say that's one thing that will help you in that regard. It'll also help you to make friends. It's a little bit difficult online, but it is something that they do. Also, I wouldn't say that the professors are kind of trying to create a competitive environment. They're always trying to be supportive and help everybody. If some student finds it difficult, they will be supportive of them. The only competition is just general competition between students, which is fairly natural.
Okay. So talking about the internals and the exams, so how were they conducted online?
So the actual process was different for the first semester and second semester. This is why I said they're trying to figure it out still. They haven't got everything figured it out. So in our first semester, we had an exam on a website called Metal. We gave our exam on that. There were a few complications with that. Our internals stayed the same. The teacher gives you some kind of presentation that you have to do with your group. You get a few weeks to do that, and then you present. You do like the project portion, and then you present it in class, or they give you an assignment you have to do in class. And then you also have two tests per semester for each subject. So all of those different things comprise your internal component, and then your actual exam you give then. In the second semester, our exam we gave on Zoom. They sent us a paper. There was an invigilator making sure we were being honest. They send you a paper. You write your paper, you scan it, and send it at the end. Very simple. And I think that's what they'll go with in future.
Okay. So how, are the faculty, is NMIMS helping you to, cope up with this online system of education?
Like I said the faculties have been very helpful. They've been fairly understanding. They don't push you too hard. They do try and make it easy for you to learn, because they do understand that it's not very easy to learn online. They do try and make it as easy as possible for you. So if you do pay attention in your lectures, they will do everything they can to make it easy for you to learn in class. As for the difficulties, yeah, there's some here and there, but they do everything they can to make it easy for you to learn.
So what would be your suggestions for the students to cope up with the
I
system?
I would say just try and pay attention in your lectures. That's very important. I know there's a lot of temptation to not pay attention to them, because you can just switch off your camera and go somewhere else or whatever. But listening to your lectures and actually paying attention to them can be a very big advantage for you. You learn a lot in them, and it'll save you a lot of other time. And then just try and not to leave your assignments too late, and you'll be okay. As long as you pay attention to your lectures and you just try and study a little bit, not too much on a day-to-day basis, or even every other day, you will not find the exam too difficult.
Okay. So there is another question from the audience, and they would like to know if, apart from the entrance exam, applications, interview, is there anything else that is involved in the admission process for NMIMS?
No, it's just an application, the test, and an essay. That's it. And an interview. Sorry.
Okay. So Tuhin, what would be your suggestions or any heads up for the students who will be going to college this year?
First of all, I would say prepare yourself for the first semester to be online. From everything we've been communicated from the government and the college, the first semester is not going to be offline. You're not going to be able to go. I would suggest, unfortunately, not to hold out hope for that. I would say there is a good chance that you'll be able to go in your second, but there is a good chance of that. I would say online, it is difficult. It's not a nice situation to be in, but you can make the most of it. You can learn from it. Just try and pay attention to your lectures. Just try and do everything you can. Do everything you can from home, and just try and enjoy it as much as you can, because it isn't as much as it isn't nice. It can still be a positive experience. You can get to know some people online, and you can do quite well actually. So I would say just make the most of it, and just try and not to lose motivation too often, because that can happen from time to time.
Okay. So how do you keep yourself motivated during these times?
First of all, I try and keep my phone away, because it's too tempting to just pick it up and start using it, because I know I'm not going to get caught, obviously. And then I just try and, first of all, if you can try and interact with the professor, that kind of keeps you in the conversation. It can also help to leave your video on, because then you can't really mess around too much. You have to actually pay attention a little bit, because then if your video is on, the professor will check you. So those are things that can just, little things that can just help you stay like, actually pay attention and do the work that you've been given. And then just try and stay up to date on your work. Don't try and leave it for the, that's something that you should learn in school also. Just don't leave your assignment for the last day, because it will make you much more stressed than you need to be.
Okay, so we have another question. How much would you say you are studying every day to cope up with the homework and assignments while managing your time?
It depends. So there are certain points in time, like there'll be a week towards the end where you have a lot of presentations. On in During that week, you're going to be spending almost all day, like most of the day studying. You'll get a few hours to yourself, obviously, as a break, but most of your time will be spent on your presentations. But then there'll be other weeks where you don't have any assignment and you don't really have any presentation, and you're more or less free, and then it's just your own decision on how much you want to study. I wouldn't suggest you need to study, 3 hours a day and or anything like that. As long as you genuinely pay attention to your lectures, the maximum I would expect you to have to do is 1 hour a day. And then when your exams come closer, then you'll have to study a few hours more. But in general, it's not over the top as long as you actually pay attention.
Okay. So there is another question about the job prospects.
So job prospects, there's a whole host of job prospects. You can go into a wide range of fields because economics is a very flexible subject. It gives you a lot of different options. First of all, you can apply to somewhere in business, in finance, in marketing. These are all very common fields that people choose. Another thing is when you actually do the subject in college, you'll find out a lot more of what you like within economics, because economics is a very wide subject. You're not going to go to a job and do economics. You'll find one field within economics that you're very passionate about, and then you can start to work on that with your professors and look for jobs. And that's when you really start to understand what job and which field you're going into. But as for opportunities, there's a wide range of them. I wouldn't worry about not finding a job. That's not something that I've heard of NMIMS students having a problem with.
Okay. So do the university also support the student with career counseling sessions, and do they have like a team to support you there?
uh, yes, they do. First of all, they also have a team that helps you with postgraduate opportunities. If you want to go straight to a postgraduate program, there are opportunities to do that. They also have a lot of international programs with different colleges. I'm not sure the exact ones, but there are international programs. So if you're looking at a college they don't have a agreement with, they'll help you with that. And if you do, that gives you a huge advantage. So there is a team and they do help you when they can.
Okay. So are you aware what all companies do come on the campus for the placements?
Companies, it obviously depends from year to year. I don't know exactly which companies come because I wasn't there this year. So like I said, varies. So I wasn't there this year to see which companies were arriving. But a lot of very good companies do come, and from something I have been told is that you get very good placements. There's kids from the batch that passed out a year prior that went to Stanford and Harvard and colleges like that. So the actual opportunities after NOMS are quite good.
Okay. So Tuhin, how much would you recommend NMIMS to other students?
I would recommend it definitely. I would first of all look at a lot of the different features of the college, see if that's what you're looking for. If you're not looking for to stay in a city and you want to stay on campus, for example, then maybe a college like Ashoka is for you. If there's no one college I would say that fits everybody. But if it seems like the kind of place that you'd enjoy, if economics is a subject that you do like, I would definitely recommend it. I think I've more or less enjoyed my experience. I think I'll enjoy it a lot more when I go there. But so far, I've enjoyed it. I think it's a good college. And I think if it seems like something that's what you're looking for, it should be a good option. But there are also a lot of other good options in India, like Symbiosis, like Ashoka, like Kriya. There's a lot of options, and you can just see which one fits your requirements the most.
Okay. So I would request the audience to kindly post their questions in the chat box. So Tuhin, the other question that I have for you is how, what kind of suggestions do you have for the students, like, regarding managing between academics and the extracurriculars, and how important it is according to you to participate in extracurricular activities during college?
First of all, the very big advantage to participating in extracurriculars like the fests is that you get to know a lot of other people, like your seniors or your batchmates. That gives you a good opportunity to do that. I would say you definitely need to balance it because that'll make college as a whole a lot more enjoyable for you, and you can still do very well academically even if you're doing extracurricular activities. So I would say pursue what you're passionate about. There's a lot of opportunities for most fields. So just pursue whatever you have a passion in from before, or whatever you want to try that you didn't in school. You could try debate, music, dance, a sport, whatever it is. So I would say just find the ones that you enjoy the most, pursue them, and just try and balance that with your academics, depending on how you are coping with it. If it's academics are a bit difficult, take a little bit of time off extracurricular. Everyone has to find their own balance. I don't think there's a specific amount of time for everybody.
Okay. So Tuhin, how was your experience with ProEd?
I enjoyed it. I think they prepared me quite well for the Indian applications, the interviews. I didn't have any problem once they kind of prepared me for that. I was able to do them quite well. I don't think there was any question I was asked I wasn't expecting. And they helped me a lot, my resume, my essays, and stuff like that. And all of those went quite smoothly. I was even told by some of my admissions officers that they liked my essays, they liked my interview answers. So I think they prepared me very well for the Indian admissions process. I was very happy.
Okay. So Tuhin, any last minute tips for the students? Anything about the college life and things that are waiting for them to explore and all that?
Yeah, I would just say if this is a college that you are looking at and it's something that you think is going to be a good experience for you, I would say go for it. Give it your all. Actually, try and make the most of it as much as it's not a nice experience. Try and get to know as many people. Try and learn as much as you can and put in and do what you felt you didn't do in school. Try all the new things that you didn't, and kind of just take advantage of this because it's a new start for you. It's your first kind of step as an adult, which is quite exciting for most people. You kind of get to leave home after a point for the first time. So it's a kind of a fresh page for everyone, and just try and take advantage of that and do all the things that you've wanted to do in the past, because this is your perfect opportunity to do it. You're never going to get this time or opportunity again, so just don't waste it. That's my only tip. Just do whatever you feel is important to you.
Okay. So I would request the audience to please pose their questions as we are about to end the session. And before we end, I would like to ask Aditi ma'am about her experience with working with Tuhin and what kind of a student he was.
Tuhin had the most brilliant communication skills, and I'm sure all of you saw a bit of it, a glimpse of it right now. He's very well read, and I think he spent most of his life, I think, playing football or reading. Am I right, Tuhin?
Yeah.
Those were his two passions. And I
Yeah.
remember the first time that he came, I was, shocked to know I don't think he prepared. And I think without preparation, he gave his SAT and got a 1450. That's something which is so unbelievable. I mean, which, really reflects his high mental ability and IQ. So, these are some of the standout features of, Tuhin. And he worked really hard with us during the application process. He connected with us every day and then landed up with the most prestigious offers, including Central Campus, Christ, Nmims, and so many others. Um, you know, Suhin, thank you so much, for connecting with us today and
Thank you.
helping our students and parents. It's been wonderful knowing you and your parents.
Thank you so much, man. It's been
Yeah,
a pleasure working with you guys too.
yeah. And
Okay.
he's also written
So
a
Tuhin,
book.
thank
If I hope it's published by now, Tuhin. I wonder what's the status.
Yeah, it got published 8-9 months ago. So yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. You can share the details of your books with your audience. I'm sure they'd love to buy and read.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
So Tuhin, thank you so much for taking out time for today's session. We're really grateful for you. All the insights that you have provided and all the suggestions and tips, they were really, really helpful. So thank you so much for taking out time. And I would like to thank all of you for being so patient, and I hope all your queries have been answered. So now we would end this session. So Tuhin, is there anything else that you would like to say or share?
No, no, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.